My partner is 30% blind in her right eye. I used to call her Right Eye and say that she was the unknown fourth member of the pop group TLC, up until Lisa Left Eye Lopez set fire to her boyfriend's mansion. This was also before I found out all the details of what had happened to her. If you do enough ambulance shifts with one person, you end up finding out way too much information about each other. Even if those EMT shifts are in LA, where you only get minimal breaks to talk. I've done 24-hour shifts where we've done non-stop calls. And by non-stop, I'm talking about where you have to get breakfast, lunch, and dinner from vending machines. There is nothing unhealthier than working in the medical field. But eventually you'll have a dead night. Typically it'll be during a new moon. An African-American sky, my partner calls it. Her real name is Jill. Jyll. Her parents are pure Californians, where babies' names must be misspelled for future entertainment industry branding purposes. I'm not attracted to her at all, thank God. You never want to be attracted to your partner. And I'm not that kind of guy, anyway. Jill has a chain smoker's body, the type of shape you see in people repeatedly in rehab, fat and skinny at the same time. On those peaceful no-moon nights, you talk or sleep. She said she was going to tell me about her eye, but first I had to tell her about my grandma. One shift I'd mentioned my grandma and then said I didn't want to talk about her anymore. And ever since then, Jill has been trying to get me to tell the full story. We're parked outside of a call. Unknown medical. A domestic disturbance where we pulled up, heard shouting, and called dispatch, who sent the cops. Now we're just waiting for the cops to come out of the house and let us know what's up. I warned Jill that there wasn't much to the story, but then I just told it anyway. My Gram's from Sao Paulo, a favela girl. One day she was playing with her best friend and another girl. They were about 13, using a doll as a baseball, true story, when both my grandma and her best friend just dropped to the ground. The other girl thought it was a game, but when neither my grandma or her friend got up, the other girl ran away crying. A neighbor found them both in the dirt. A bullet had embedded in my grandma's head. Stray bullet. No one seemed shocked. Angry, but not shocked. I pick up the clipboard, make sure I've filled out everything. You can almost have your entire form filled out before you even see the patient. So, what happened? I ask, pointing to her eye. She's silent. The house we're in front of looks like it was painted the color of congestive heart failure. The shutters done in a shade resembling pink, frothy sputum. The cops finally emerge and give us the go-ahead, so we get to work. Inside the house is a 55-year-old woman. I assess her. Thank God Jill hates doing that. I love patient assessment. It's like I get to play house for a few minutes. While I do that, Jill tends to scene safety. The woman's husband or friend or whatever has just let a dog out from a back room that the police must have requested be locked up. Jill tells him to please keep the dog away while we're helping the patient. It's some kind of weird, beaten-up poodle. Not like a toy poodle. It looks more like a sex toy poodle. Like a gonorrhea poodle. I don't want that dog around me. I'm taking a final pulse to double-check that I got the first reading right, and then yawn. And just as I yawn, the patient coughs, and I feel little water droplets all over my face. Patients repeatedly do things like this, as if they have no comprehension that viruses can transfer. They don't understand that bacteria dream of these moments. I snap my mouth shut, trying not to make it obvious that this bothers me, and I ask for the bathroom. I go in and actually squirt the liquid soap, lavender and chamomile, into my mouth. I turn on the faucet, and the weakest stream ever of water comes out. I take in as much as I can and slosh it all around. The bathroom has not been cleaned since the days of Betsy Ross. I suck it up and return to the front room, my mouth bubbly and bitter. I know that there are carcinogens in soap. I also know I didn't wash my mouth out long enough. Jill smiles when I get back. So, I tell Jill, she's complaining of nausea and emesis. Emesis means vomiting. I like to use medical terms whenever I can. Jill hates them. She says it's disrespectful to the patient. I think the opposite. Medical scenes create crowds, even if it's crowds of only 2 or 3. Using med terms keeps everything in code, so you're not broadcasting a patient's medical history to the world. I tell Jill that the woman's complaining of abdominal tenderness and distension. The pain's radiating from here, I point to my belly button, to here, back and shoulders. Pulse? Rapid. Hard to find, but when I did, rapid. How rapid? Very. Jill grasps the woman's wrist, feels her pulse for herself. Then Jill touches her forehead. She's warm, she says. I know. She also says she has a sore throat. She didn't tell me that. Jill looks to the patient. Do you have a sore throat? The woman nods. She has a sore throat. This is the moment where we both decide diagnosis, something we're never supposed to do. You save that for the hospital. The docs get furious if you ever give a diagnosis, but we love to do them. As soon as we get outside, she says influenza, and I say pancreatitis. It's pronounced pancreatitis, you fool. I go to pull out the gurney. I like pulling it out. There's something authoritative to it, the way the gurney crashes to the ground. It announces to the neighborhood that we're staying. We hear laughter inside. Inappropriate laughter. Loud. Jesus, Jill says. I swear I've never been to a call where at least one person isn't drunk or high. She goes back into the house, but then turns right back out, walking exceptionally fast towards me. She motions for me to put the gurney back in and hops into the driver's seat, saying, Code 13. Code 13, I say, climbing into the passenger side. What's going to blow up? Code 13 means danger of explosion. He's about to blow up, she says, and starts pulling the ambulance away. We're just leaving her? He had a gun. Who had a gun? A little handgun. Who? I say. The dog guy, the guy from in back. Was he going to shoot her? No, Jill says. I don't know. He was just standing there with it. Threatening? No. Just standing there. Yeah. Doing what? Laughing. You heard him. She turns on to Rosecrans. About what? Who cares? He had a gun. Radio it in. I hit the button. She stops me. Call it in. Don't say that over the radio. I call on my cell, let them know what's happening. Dispatch sounds angry. They don't like when we use our cell phones. They tell us to radio it in code. Jill pulls over. She does the radio. We wait. Dispatch says something, but I can't understand a word of it. Only Jill seems to understand them. I tune them out. The radio is all hers. Driving is hers. The patients are mine. And I'm worried about pancreatitis flu dog gun woman. We sit there waiting, and I ask what we're doing, and she tells me that dispatch said to hold our position, so we're holding. And we hold. And we hold. I tell her to ask dispatch what's going on, but she says no, that they'll contact us when they radio. Meanwhile, the cops are heading back over there. It's not illegal to hold a gun, I say, in your home. She takes the clipboard out of my hands and puts it on the floor. We're not going anywhere anytime soon. I look down Rosecrans, this long spine that goes all the way until it hits the big skull that is the Pacific Ocean. I want to say out loud, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead. But I know Jill won't get the reference. She says theater is for old white women. Every play she has ever gone to, a grand total of 3, had audiences filled with gray-haired women. I thought about it, and all the plays I've been to, it was the same for me. It's hard to argue when someone's right. She asked me if this job already didn't get me sick of old white women, and the conversation stopped there. Jill is counting. I can tell she's counting. There's a certain glazed look she gets. She once told me she likes to do dopamine drips to practice calculating them. You take the patient's weight, drop the last digit, subtract 2, and then that number is the 5 microgram dose. She's doing that now, I can tell. A 160-pound patient, I say. What? What's the dopamine? She looks confused. The patient dose, I say. There are no cars going by, as if LA is exhausted. What were you thinking of? Nothing, she says. I cough. She turns to me, examines me. Oh God, I think, not diagnosis time. If I have any little ailment, she immediately goes into assessment mode. She doesn't like to do this to the patients that want her to, only wants to do it to her coworkers who don't want her to. I hate it. She starts talking medical history with me with no code, saying things like, when's the last time you had unprotected sex? No one likes getting asked that question, especially by the person you spend 24-hour shifts with. I don't have anything, I say. Sometimes a cough is just a cough. It doesn't have to be a sinus infection or asthma or bronchitis or pneumonia or gastroesophageal reflux disease or syphilis. It's just a cough. You need to get laid, she says. First she's concerned I might have syphilis. Now she wants me to go out and get it. I want to ask her about her sex life, but I don't. I want to ask her about her dreams, fears, hopes, but so much of our conversation is sports, weather, and jokes. I've noticed that when things go bad, that's when we talk. I mean, really talk. Or at least she really talks. I wear my heart on my sleeve, and on my pants, and in my hat. But she needs adrenaline to open up. After a patient dies, we talk. After we get chewed out for showing up 2 minutes late, we talk. When the heart's going fast, when we're as tachycardic as our patients, that's when the guard goes down. I feel like I could do it now, but everything is in the timing, especially in the medical world. For now, our life is asphalt. LA, for a town of over 1 million, can be boring as hell. Its streets sometimes can feel like they're doing nothing other than waiting for an earthquake to swallow them up. Jill sits there, clicking her teeth, chewing on a stray hair in her mouth or on nothing. She drops the keys in the cup holder, takes a deep breath, and says, "We were in Helmand. It's a province. We call it Hellman. It was about 0700, whatever, it doesn't matter. It was a blast, a massive explosion. I don't know what from. I don't care, whatever. I'm in the driver's seat. Steven, you know? Your friend." She ignores me. "He wasn't sitting there," she nods to where I am. "He was standing right outside the door. It was open. And then, explosion. Instantly killed." Dispatch says something incomprehensible. Jill gives our unit number and says, "Roger that." Something suddenly so military about her. Maybe it was the night, its thick Kevlar of blackness wrapped around the ambulance, but Jill felt like a colonel to me. She keeps talking as if we didn't have to get back to where we had to get back to. The fragments hit all along my right side, and I thought it was mortar, a bomb, or just flying debris. I said that to the doctor, this really wacky guy. He looked like a teenager in camouflage, hyperactive, but he went to Yale Medical School. He must have told me 18 times he went to Yale Medical School. Asshole. But it was weird. He told me that the fragments in my eye were actually bone. That what blinded me was bits of Stephen's skull. That my whole right side is filled with pieces of Stephen. She starts up the ambulance, and we circle back, heading toward the house, the police still there. She finishes parking and says, I read that our hands hold, she picks up her pen, around 5,000 to 5 million units of bacteria for every centimeter. She opens her door, gets out. I go around to the other side. She continues. Neither of us washed our hands from that last patient. This one? I point to the house, to the patient somewhere deep inside. She's a part of us right now. I feel like I have to cough, but I hold it in. The police motion for us to go in. No one is in handcuffs. No one is in trouble. No one is going to die. A bit of laughter trickles out onto the street. Jill and I step inside, swallowed by another house.